Have you ever wondered why the moment you pull away, his attention sharpens like a blade? Why silence, the kind laced with quiet self-possession, becomes the most intoxicating sound in the room? It isn't a game, and it isn't manipulation. It is ancient psychology, buried in the collective unconscious of men. Rooted in the primal wiring that makes mystery irresistible and detachment the cruelest form of seduction, most women have been taught to believe that giving more will win him over. More affection, more words, more vulnerability laid bare at his feet, like an offering. But the truth: the human psyche doesn't hunger for what is handed over easily. It craves what slips just beyond reach, the enigma wrapped in boundaries, the softness shielded by distance. Deep within the male unconscious lies an instinct older than language itself, the hunt. And though civilization has tamed his tools, it has not tamed his nature. To chase is to feel alive. To pursue is to measure his worth. But here is where most women falter: they misunderstand how power breathes within feminine restraint. Sophia learned this truth not through books, but through her scars. The first time a man grew distant, she ran after him. Her words flowed like rivers, desperate to fill the silence, to patch the void. But the more she leaned in, the further he recoiled. His attraction withered under the weight of her need. His curiosity drowned beneath her transparency. It wasn't rejection, it was biology. The masculine thrives in the unknown, blossoms under the tension of uncertainty. And yet, so many women, fearing abandonment, extinguish their allure with overexposure. They reveal every thought, every emotion, every availability, believing this breeds connection. But connection without space is suffocation. Love without polarity is erosion. So, imagine this: you're no longer the woman who chases approval like it's oxygen. You become the woman who understands the art of absence, the silent mastery of selective detachment. You do not withhold to punish, you withhold to protect your essence. To remind him that access to your world is earned, not assumed. This is the secret most never teach. To ignore a man the right way is to disrupt his pattern, to fracture the complacency of his ego. It's not avoidance rooted in fear, but distance born from reverence for yourself. Carl Jung spoke of individuation, the sacred journey of becoming whole. Untethered from projections, free from unconscious patterns that imprison the soul. For a woman, ignoring a man properly is part of this journey. It means no longer reacting from wounds, but responding from wisdom. No longer collapsing into insecurity, but standing still in sovereign grace. The feminine mystery terrifies men, precisely because it awakens his shadows, the doubts, the inadequacies, the restless hunger to conquer. But when you disappear not physically, but energetically, you hold a mirror to his psyche. He sees his reflection distorted in the absence of your validation. His mind fills in the gaps, weaving fantasies, regrets, obsessions that ignite the chase. And this chase is not childish, it is archetypal. It awakens the hunter, the provider, the seeker, buried beneath layers of apathy and distraction. Suddenly, the woman who once seemed ordinary becomes the woman he cannot decipher. She becomes an unsolved riddle, a distant flame flickering just beyond reach. To ignore a man the right way is to unbind yourself from the compulsion to fix, explain, or prove. It is to master the pause, to let your silence echo louder than pleas ever could. It is to dwell in your own wholeness, knowing that true feminine power does not cling, it invites, it captivates. It vanishes when not cherished. Men chase what they fear losing. They value what demands their effort. And a woman, anchored in her worth and daunted by his withdrawal, becomes the storm he cannot weather, the calm he cannot control. There is a moment, a quiet, almost imperceptible moment, when a man realizes he no longer holds dominion over your emotions. It creeps in like fog at dusk, subtle yet undeniable. It unsettles him, because for so long he believed your affection was tethered to his attention, like a marionette to its strings. But when you withdraw, when you master the art of dignified detachment, the strings fall limp and the illusion shatters. You become unpredictable, and unpredictability is the birthplace of fascination. The male psyche, governed by ancient blueprints, thrives on conquest, on tension, on the pursuit of that which resists him. Without resistance, without space, his desire dulls. But with mystery, with silence, with the soft but unwavering boundaries of a woman who knows her value, desire sharpens into obsession. But here lies the sacred distinction. To ignore a man the right way is not rooted in spite. It is born from alignment, from understanding that energy follows attention, and where you place yours defines the currency of your worth. When a woman pours her attention into a man, prematurely, before he has proven himself worthy, she depletes her mystery. She projects her hopes, her longings, her insecurities onto him like fragile glass, praying he will hold them carefully. But most men, uninitiated into true emotional maturity, recoil from the weight of that projection. They pull away, not from malice, but from biology, from unconscious programming. Yet when you withhold not with cruelty, but with self-possessed grace, you disrupt this cycle. You step out of the arena of pursuit. You no longer play the role of the eager, available, ever-giving woman. You become the observer, the oracle of your own story, and here's the paradox: your absence amplifies your presence in the quiet. He feels you more. In the void, your energy lingers, haunting, ethereal, untamed. His imagination stitches together the fragments of your essence, coloring them with longing, regret, fascination. He begins to chase, not just you but the image of you his mind cannot relinquish. Jung spoke of the anima, the feminine imprint within the male unconscious. When a woman embodies her mystery, she awakens his anima, igniting a hunger for connection beyond the physical. But if she overexposes herself, that hunger evaporates, the mystery dies, the chase ends. But when she retreats into herself, when she turns inward with quiet strength, she commands attention without uttering a word. She becomes the embodiment of sacred polarity, the yin to his restless yang. Men crave polarity like oxygen. They crave the dance of tension and release, pursuit and stillness. Without it, relationships decay into monotony, but with it, desire remains alive, electric, evolving. To ignore a man the right way is to embody that polarity. It is to let him feel the absence of your energy, not as punishment, but as initiation. To remind him that access to you is a privilege, not an entitlement. You see, the woman who practices this art is not playing games. She is not cold or manipulative. She is simply sovereign. She does not collapse into desperation. She does not chase breadcrumbs of attention. She anchors herself in the fertile ground of self-worth and lets the masculine come to her. And he will, because once he feels the void of your presence, once he tastes the addictive edge of your mystery, he will chase like an addict. Not because you demanded it, but because your energy, your silence, your detachment, whispered the most powerful truth of all. You are the prize. But understand this, true feminine detachment is not passive. It is an active force, as commanding as the moon's pull on the tides. To ignore a man the right way is not to disappear entirely, nor to play the games of absence for ego gratification. It is to radiate presence without availability, to remain visible but untouchable, like the distant glow of candlelight behind a window on a winter's night, warm, inviting, yet unreachable to those who do not earn entry. This is the power most women abandon too soon, shackled by fear, fear of being forgotten, fear of losing him to someone more willing to chase. But it is precisely in resisting that panic, in mastering that fear, that a woman transforms from ordinary to unforgettable. The man who feels your withdrawal does not forget you. He replays the subtle curve of your smile, the softness of your voice, the way your energy filled a room without demanding space. And when that energy retreats, it leaves a void, a maddening, exquisite void that only his pursuit can hope to fill. Yet, the pursuit is not guaranteed, nor should it be. For in this sacred detachment, the woman reclaims her throne, understanding that the right man, the man of substance, will rise to the challenge. He will lean into the discomfort of your silence, confront the shadows your absence stirs within him, his insecurity, his doubt, his restless need for control. It is within this alchemical tension that true polarity is born. Carl Jung taught, That what we resist persists, and the male psyche resists the vulnerability of genuine attraction. The feminine mystery fractures his defenses, awakens his shadows, exposes his longing. And many men, unprepared for that inner storm, retreat into avoidance. They distance themselves, hoping the woman will chase, will ease the discomfort of the unknown, but the empowered woman does not chase. She leans back, anchored in self-respect, knowing that love cannot be forced and desire cannot be begged. She becomes the mirror of his evolution. If he is ready to rise to meet her in conscious connection, he will. If he is not, her detachment spares her the grief of chasing ghosts. And so she waits, not idly but actively cultivating her life, her purpose, her joy. She becomes magnetic, not through pursuit, but through presence. Her world expands beyond him, and in that expansion, she becomes the rarest of women, the woman whose attention is not for sale. This is the art of ignoring a man the right way. The embodiment of self-worth so unwavering, it commands reverence. It is the refusal to dilute your essence for temporary validation. The mastery of feminine restraint that turns curiosity into captivation. Men chase mystery, not desperation. They crave the challenge, the puzzle, the dance of tension. And when a woman holds herself with the quiet power of detachment, she invites the chase without ever uttering a word. But there's a deeper layer to this, hidden beneath the surface. Of mere attraction, a layer woven from the ancient threads of psychology and soul. To ignore a man the right way is to participate in his individuation, often without him even realizing. You become the catalyst for his evolution, not by nurturing him into comfort, but by provoking his discomfort. By becoming the unknown, Jung spoke often of the tension between opposites, the masculine and feminine, the known and unknown, the conscious and unconscious, and how wholeness is born, not from avoidance of this tension, but from leaning into it. When you pull back, when you resist the instinct to fill the silence with explanations, affection, or apologies, you are inviting him into that tension. You are daring him to confront his shadows. This is not cruelty, it is initiation. The immature masculine recoils from this space, interpreting your detachment as rejection, his pride inflamed, his ego bruised. But the awakened masculine, the one you truly desire, feels the pull of your absence like an invitation. He recognizes the subtle power beneath your silence, and though it unsettles him, it awakens him. Because your absence demands something of him: action, introspection, effort. You are no longer feeding the dynamic where your energy compensates for his complacency. You no longer hand him comfort without qualification. You are no longer a refuge for a man unwilling to meet you in his fullness. And that disruption, that elegant refusal, it shakes him, and in the shaking, he begins to see you differently. The woman who once felt familiar now feels elusive, layered, unreachable. In the most intoxicating way. Your silence becomes a mirror to his unconscious fears, fears of inadequacy, fears of losing control, fears that he may not be enough. And yet, instead of retreating, his psyche, ancient and primal, pushes him forward. The unknown seduces him, the chase begins. But hear this clearly: to master this art is to master yourself first. It is not born from insecurity or wounded pride, but from the deep, unwavering knowing that your value exists independent of his recognition. You ignore him not to hurt him, but to honor yourself. You see, feminine energy, when fully embodied, does not clamor for attention, it magnetizes it. It does not explain itself endlessly. It allows the unknown to speak louder than words, and in that unknown, in that fertile void of your absence, a man's deepest instincts awaken. He begins to notice your absence, like an ache. He recalls the softness of your voice, the curve of your neck, the fire in your eyes. His mind replays the subtle ways you once offered yourself, not realizing until now how much those moments mattered. But you, anchored in your sovereignty, no longer overextend to remind him. You understand that mystery cannot be manufactured, it is lived. It is cultivated through boundaries, through restraint, through the quiet, steady rhythm of choosing yourself again and again. And as you do, his addiction begins not to your body alone, but to your presence, your mind, your untouchable essence. The more you remain an enigma, the more his desire deepens. Not because you manipulate, but because you refuse to be ordinary. There comes a moment when the air between you and him thickens with unspoken tension, not hostility, but that raw electric awareness that something has shifted. He senses it before his mind can explain it. The energetic chords, once slack with your constant availability, now pulse taut with absence. His ego, trained to believe you would always be there, wavers. This is the alchemy of feminine detachment. You withdraw, but not into bitterness or resentment. You withdraw into yourself, your power, your world, your radiance. And that withdrawal echoes like a song he can't get out of his head. But make no mistake, this requires discipline. The unhealed feminine collapses into reaction, chasing, over-explaining, grasping for scraps of affection. But the embodied feminine, she leans back. She does not chase breadcrumbs because she is the feast. She does not barter her energy for temporary connection, because she understands true connection is not transactional, it is magnetic. Man addicted to the chase is not controlled by your games, but by your absence, your unavailability that is rooted not in cruelty, but in self. You become the unattainable mystery, the quiet storm, the reflection of every mythic woman his unconscious remembers but his waking mind struggles to define. Jungian psychology teaches us that we are all driven by symbols, archetypes, buried deep within our unconscious patterns of power, desire, and fear that shape every relationship we touch. The feminine mystery is one such symbol. It whispers to the masculine, stirs his shadows, beckons him to evolve. But most women dilute their power before that evolution begins. They pour themselves into men prematurely, erasing the mystery, suffocating the polarity. They believe love is proven through constant accessibility, through solving his doubts, through making herself small enough to be chosen. But love, real love, cannot bloom in captivity. It blooms in space, in the wild tension of the unknown. In the chase ignited by your restraint, to ignore a man the right way is to stand unwavering in your worth, to become the mirror to his potential, not the sponge for his wounds. Your silence speaks the language of boundaries. Your distance echoes your standards. Your detachment forces him to decide. Rise to meet you, or lose himself in the shadows of what could have been. This is not about playing hard to get for attention. This is about becoming so whole within yourself that a man must stretch beyond his comfort to meet you. He must navigate his own shadows, confront his fears, rise in his masculine strength, or fade into the background of your life. And so, he begins to chase, not because you withheld affection manipulatively, but because you embodied the oldest truth of attraction. The woman who is not easily attained becomes unforgettable. He finds himself thinking of you at unexpected hours. Your absence stalks him like a ghost in the spaces where your laughter once filled the room, in the quiet corners of his mind where your voice lingers. The more he feels the loss of your attention, the more his desire calcifies into obsession. And you, radiant, grounded, sovereign, remain unmoved. You know. Now, the greatest seduction is not your body, nor your words, but your ability to be just out of reach, until he proves himself worthy. And here, within this dance of presence and absence, the masculine faces his greatest dilemma, to chase or to retreat. To rise into the unknown you embody, or to shrink back into the safety of predictability. But, the moment you mastered the art of ignoring him the right way, you fractured his illusions. You disrupted the narrative where he held the power. He cannot place you anymore. You are not the woman whose affection is guaranteed. You are not the woman who fills silences with nervous laughter, who bends herself to soothe his uncertainty. You have become the archetype of the unknown, the high priestess in the collective unconscious, veiled, sovereign, mysterious, beyond comprehension. And it is this mystery that drives him to madness. For what is more maddening to the ego than not being able to claim what it desires? His pride may resist, but his deeper instincts cannot. The same masculine force that conquered empires, that scaled mountains, that braved storms for glory, now awakens within him, at the absence of your energy. But you've detached not just physically, but energetically. Your silence is no accident. It is a statement. You are no longer available to be half chosen, half seen, or half loved. You are no longer accessible to a man who mistakes your presence for convenience. In that detachment, your value crystallizes. Scarcity births desire. And desire, when denied immediate gratification, becomes addictive. Yet, the most dangerous misconception women fall into is believing that detachment means abandonment of feeling. No, it means the mastery of emotional discipline. It is the courage to hold the ache of longing without collapsing into reaction. It is the audacity to trust that your absence teaches him more than your constant availability ever could. The ancient Stoics, Seneca, Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, taught that control lies not in others' actions, but in our response. You cannot control whether he chases, but you can control your alignment, your silence, your boundaries. This is not punishment. It is protection of your energy, your dignity, your sacred feminine essence. A man may chase when he feels the loss of your presence, but he transforms when he recognizes your standards. When your detachment is laced not with resentment, but with unwavering self-respect, you become both his addiction and his lesson. He will obsess, question, analyze. His dreams may fill with echoes of your laughter. His days with the ghost of your scent, his mind looping through conversations, moments, possibilities. The woman who once seemed ordinary now exists beyond reach, elevated by her mystery, crowned by her distance, and in this space, he decides to rise or retreat. But, regardless of his choice, you remain rooted, because the woman who has learned to ignore a man the right way no longer waits to be chosen. She has already chosen herself, and that, above all, is what makes her unforgettable. There is an undeniable power in a woman who no longer fears the silence. In the past, that silence felt suffocating, like abandonment, like rejection, like the slow erosion of her worth. But now, it feels like sanctuary. Like a temple where only the worthy may enter, where her attention, her body, her heart, are no longer currency to barter for scraps of affection. The woman who ignores a man the right way is not empty. She is full, so full of herself, her life, her sovereignty, that only a man forged by fire can stand in her presence. Her absence is not a game, it is a rite of passage. It separates the boys from the men, the fleeting from the permanent, the illusion from the truth. And here's what most never understand. The man may chase her like an addict, but it is not the chase alone that binds him, it is the evolution required to reach her. She does not remain an enigma forever. She reveals herself, but only to the one who proves capable of withstanding the storm of her silence. The abyss of her mystery, the crucible of his own shadows. Carl Jung believed we do not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. And so, when a woman pulls away, when she ignores a man from a place of power rather than pain, she initiates this very process within him. Her silence forces him to confront the darkness within, the insecurities, the ego wounds, the buried fears of inadequacy. And should he choose to face them, to grow through them, he earns more than her attention. He earns her unveiled self. The depths of her feminine essence, no man can counterfeit. But understand this, she does not wait for him to evolve. She lives, she thrives, she dances in the fullness of her being, unattached to the timeline of his awakening. If he rises, good. If he chases, intoxicating. But if he falters, collapses, disappears, she does not grieve what never truly belonged to her. For the woman who knows her worth doesn't chase, she chooses.